Matthew. I'm gonna be bringing y'all chapter 2 through 7 review of Legend of the Phoenix. As you can see from my work shirt, I came out pretty late, so forgive me. I had to do the review late, and even though I've been reading this chapter, weekly, I've been just too busy to review it on Mondays. But since now I'm more free, I'll be able to review it. I have reviewed chapter 1, which is broken into 2 parts, 1.1 and 1.2, on my channel. So if you want to go back and watch that, go ahead before you watch this. And this is not gonna be really a review. It's more of a rundown from the latest chapters of 2 through 7. But it's a Korean manga, just to let you know. So therefore, it's read like the way we read books here in America, from right to left, and also is in color. So it's like reading a comic book, but done in anime style. So it's really good. But yeah, chapter 2 begins with our main character, Ling Mo, who got hit by a comet, and he's falling through the sky, and he just keeps falling through like space and time until he hits the ground. And then we get this narrator, which is like an older version of him with glasses, stating stuff about he's going through time, his body is gaining magic from this, and is maturing and is rapidly growing. And because of all this accumulation of going through space and time and all this essence that he's going through, and the fact that he's a genius on top of that, which are just super smart humans, he's basically having infinite potential to grow and do whatever he wants. That's basically the point of this narration, which was pretty funny because it's himself narrating it. So it's like, but he wakes up a couple of months later, and he meets the dwarf chief. He wakes up in Dwarf Village, and he meets the dwarf chief. And later on, from meeting him, he meets a female dwarf, which we don't get her name, but in the dwarf chief, we just call him Chief. We don't get his name either, but and that was a chapter. Then we get chapter 3, and chapter 3, he's bragging that he's a genius and that he can do anything better than anybody else because he's a genius. Unfortunately, that fails on him because he can't do none of the chores of the dwarves. He can't gather boulders, he can't gather fruits, he can't chop trees, he can't do nothing. So, and he gets like super depressed and upset that he can't do nothing, and he gets really, really upset. And that chapter ends off, chapter 3 ends off with him going to a mountaintop, and it's erupting. And while it's erupting, he's just standing there with like a strong, like firm face, saying, "I'm gonna challenge this war and its child, and I'm gonna beat it." Then chapter 4, he starts training and learning strong chop slash technique, which he got defeated by because the old man had defeated him with it in that chapter. And also in that chapter 4, he learned how to do all the chores because he remembers a technique from his past to gather chi. So he keeps working, faints, gathers chi, go back to work, and he keeps doing this. It's like level grinding in a way, but instead of gaining level, he's gaining muscles like rapidly and quickly and experience on this, which was pretty cool. And it was funny seeing that. But after he learns like technique, he challenges the old man, Chief, and he beats the Chief. He doesn't mean to beat him badly, but he beats him. And then the Chief is inspired to teach him forging and stuff like that. And that's when we get to this time we're in chapter 5. And after he learns forging and stuff, and he obtains material, he creates a beginner axe sword +2. And now he has to go hunt slimes in the end of that chapter. Then chapter 6, he's supposed to defeat 100 slimes, but he ends up getting pissed off by them. So instead of beating 100, he beats 1,000. Then after that, he has to fight 100 goats. But these goats are oversized with big horns. And as you can see, I have a little notepad here. I'm bad with names and events, so I wrote everything down. But yeah, in chapter 6, after he beats 1,000 slimes instead of 100, he fights the goats. He beats 100. He's exhausted because he got jumped. by slimes for doing this as payback for what he did to the other 1,000 slimes. So, and then he creates the beginning weapon again, but this one is a weapon plus, and is known as the 100 Warring Sword. And then after that, you know, he gets happy with his new blade, and he gets sent on another mission. And the instant he gets there, he finds like this big gemstone in the water, and it's a material. And when he went to go approach it, a giant bull comes out from the water, and it's an ocean bull. And this jewel is actually part of the ocean bull's head. It's like part of his forehead, like a jewel. And then that chapter ends. And then we get to chapter 7, which is very interesting, because he fights at first. From talking to the bull ignores his talk and he starts to attack him. So he gets like kind of like scared, I guess you can say, and he just starts running because he didn't want to fight this big bull. But then after a while, he gets like upset, and he starts to notice, oh well, let me just give it a try. And plus, I have a new weapon. So he takes out the new weapon, and he used a technique called Killer Instinct Slash, and he like rips him apart perfectly without losing health. And then he forges the jewel he mines the jewel from his head. And you know, while he's doing this, the chief comes out and gives him a big hug, because in the dwarf society, filling on people and, you know, touching them and giving them a hug is a sign of respect and love. So it happens a lot to him, and it's just funny because he's not used to it, because he's like us, he's human, so to him it's like, stop touching me. But it's just funny seeing this all go down. And as you see in the thumbnail, that's also a ranking system that we learned in this chapter, which came out today. And we learned that there's different ranks to each class, and each class has different levels. And even if you on the same rank / level of someone else, even if you're not, there's different tiers as well. You got, I think, low, high, and mid for each of the class and each of the level sets. So it's like, even if you're higher level than somebody, but if you're low in those classes and they're high in theirs, they can still technically try to beat you and succeed. So that was some nice level building / world building we got in this episode, I mean, in this manga. And yeah, so far, even though we've been stuck in the village of the dwarves, this is supposed to be an action fantasy manga, if I'm not mistaken. It's romance and some other stuff. This manga has like about 5-6 different categories that it's in, but it has adventure, action, fantasy, gaming, and some other stuff, romance, stuff like that. But good manga, very good manga. Again, it's a Korean manga, so it's in color and it's read from right to left, like most American books. So if you like comics and manga, this is like a fusion of both. So that's one of the things I love about Korean manga, like Noblesse or Tower of God or God of High School. They are in color. So besides you seeing a beautiful, nice drawn out anime picture, since it's in color, it gives it like more light, you know, and it makes it more beautiful to read through it. So, but yeah, this is my chapter 2 through 7 rundown real quick / review. I'll leave a link in the description of where I go read this. I will be reviewing this weekly when it comes out. Sorry for, you know, dumping all this information on y'all, but if you're interested in this Korean manga, which Korean mangas are very interesting, like I said, Noblesse, Tower of God, and God of High School, those 3 mangas are all very well known, and they're Korean mangas as well. So if you like any of those 3, you're most likely gonna like this one as well, even though we're only 7 chapters in from the recording of this video, which is August 26th, I believe, which is Monday, or 27th, one of them. But yeah, sorry, I had something on my screen which I'll wipe off. But yeah, if you haven't read it, go read it. If you have read it, read it again. Great manga. Like, comment, share, subscribe, share with your friends and family, and follow me on Twitter and Amino. That will be in the description below. And yeah, see you in the next one. Peace.